Hello and welcome back to my channel. This video is the part 2 of the incredible story of David and Esther Allen. If you haven't watched part 1, I'll encourage you to watch it. In this video, David and Esther laid all bare, and I'll encourage you to watch till the end.
If something you do as an individual or as a married couple prevents other people from coming to Jesus, then stop what you're doing.
Wow.
Because our job is not to stop people from coming to Jesus. That's our job is to bring people to Jesus.
Lovely. Well, this is awesome.
So Esther started to recover from her operations. She's the first person, I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, she's the first person in Ireland to have a man-made pouch made within her. So she had a stoma bag for a period of time, but then it was reversed, and she has they made a bag inside her, so she doesn't actually have a stoma.
Wow.
And she was the first person in Ireland to ever have that surgery.
Wow.
And she was treated like royalty because of it.
Well, you do not look like what you've been through, Esther.
So
honestly,
it was a tough time, wasn't it? But God has been so good.
Amen.
But we wanted to start a family, and that's where the question originated. We wanted to start a family, and we were really desperate to have children. We were both heavily involved in kids work when we got after getting saved and started to go to church. Both involved in kids work. Esther very much in Sunday school and in Campaigners, which is an organised uniformed organisation, Christian, and I was involved in it too. And we just loved kids.
So you had a strong passion for kids work.
Desperately loved kids, and we desperately wanted to be. And we reckon we would have made pretty good parents.
But they'd have been spoiled.
They would have
Loved.
they would have been spoiled. Esther knows that they've been spoiled, but because of Esther's surgeries, we had been told before she had the surgery that the chances of her having children would be virtually nil. Then she had the surgeries, and everything, although there was a lot of complications when she was having the surgeries, everything healed really well afterwards. So then the doctor brought us in and says, listen, there's absolutely no reason that Esther can't have children. We've done the tests and everything's really good and everything's super with that. So we weren't getting pregnant, and we kept on going back, and then it turned out that the doctor says maybe we need to start doing some tests on me.
On you, okay.
Which is fair enough. So I had to start getting tests done, and pretty quickly they found out that I could have children, but the amount of live sperm that I produced was so minimal that they could only do it through IVF.
Right, okay,
So we went up to start IVF, and we were actually going for a treatment that was called ICSI, which is like an advanced IVF.
Right, okay.
It's a little bit better results. And
probably more expensive.
Well, at that stage in Northern Ireland, you got 3 attempts free, and then you
subsequently have to pay.
So we went up to have that, and we were sitting. We'll never forget the day ever. It was probably the lowest we could ever have felt. We went into our appointment. Our appointment was for 3 o'clock, and we sat in the waiting room. 3:15, 3:30, 3:45, 4 o'clock. People were coming in with appointments. Saying, you could even hear them saying, "What time's your appointment for?" 4 o'clock. Then they were taken, and we were sitting there, and we kept going. We've been here, and this is just if you don't mind waiting, you don't mind waiting. So it came to 5 o'clock. The doctor called us in, and he said that they had better equipment in this hospital, and what they had thought was live sperm wasn't, and that there was no live sperm at all. And basically what he said to us, this was the top surgeon in the whole of Ireland, fertility expert in Ireland, said Mrs. Allen, you can have children, but not with Mr. Allen. And that's how he put it to us. And we were just sitting, and we just, and we just were absolutely, and he said, my advice would be, go and get yourselves.
Before you give that advice, just gonna pause you on there. What a touching story, and I must commend you for the courage in sharing this very personal story, David and Esther. Guys, I'm feeling really emotional, even though this is not the first time I'm hearing this story. It is a very powerful story, and if you want to know how the story continues, just stay with us, and we will continue the story in a moment. Right, continue with the story.
So I was just going to say there that so the advice the doctor gave us was, go away, either get yourself a pet or find a hobby that you can enjoy together, and that was it. And we were left, we were completely and utterly devastated. Devastated. Now, what I didn't know, and when we think back to when my mother left, so when I was born, it was 1970. Men didn't take anything to do with going near the hospital, or they didn't go in to see the baby born. They found out probably a day or two later. I don't know, but I just know that my dad didn't know some of the stuff of my medical history when I was young. And when I was young, I had been born, and my testicles had been in my stomach, and they had dropped them down, but when they had done that, they had been damaged. So because of that, I never knew this, because my mum wasn't there, so it was my dad bringing us up. Men didn't talk about that or anything like that. So we didn't know this information. So it was a shock to us, and we struggled, didn't we, for about a year afterwards. We struggled, even in our marriage. We struggled a bit because neither of us knew how to cope with it. Whenever we thought that the problem, and I say that in that way because we always said to each other, it's not a problem. It's not a problem, it's just the facts. But for me, I'd said all along, when we thought it was to do with Esther's body, I had said all along, look, it doesn't matter, I'm 100%, I love you, support you. I never think anything like, it's not your fault. But as soon as I knew that it was my body, I was so annoyed with myself that I couldn't give Esther what was her heart's desire. So with that, we didn't know how to cope with that. So we started to struggle a bit in our marriage because neither of us knew how to deal with it. I was blaming myself. Esther wasn't blaming me. But I couldn't. In my heart, I'd already deprived Esther of so much because we had a number of hard years recovering our finances, which we did do, which was great. But it took a while to get there. And then on top of that, all of a sudden, I deprived her of holidays and cars and different things, and now I deprived her of a child. And I said to her quite openly, if you want to leave me, if you want to go and find someone that can give you a family, I understand, because I felt that low about it, to the point that at that time, I had to go on the antidepressants because I was thinking some really dark thoughts. But also, in that moment and in that storm, as young Christians, we didn't have the wisdom or the people around us to lead us closer to God, or for to cling to God. And so many times now I say to people, and I do say it quite regular, that when storms come, we don't run from God, we don't waver, we cling as tight as we can to
Yeah.
God, because God has an answer for everything.
Yes.
And he has a reason for everything.
Mm.
And this is probably the statement that I live my life to now, which is this:
Yeah.
God knows best.
Indeed. God knows best.
And
God knows best.
that's how through a year of difficult moments, we ended up coming to a point where both of us one day together.
But before that, it was quite difficult because we were in the church, and the church was just like a baby boom, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And at one point, I had said to David, if I hear of one more baby being born, I couldn't. I was happy for the people, but you just, and I think because as well we were in a Pentecostal church where we believe in healing and miracles. And we'd been prayed for so many times by so many people, and believing that this is what God wants for us, and He doesn't hold anything back from you. And so it was times that it was good because there's times that I would be low and David would be okay, and vice versa, and we would help each other.
So you were supporting each other.
Initially in the stun, when we were stunned with it, which took about a year to come to terms with it, we were a bit all over the place, and I was a bit all over the place, and I was nearly like turning back to my old ways, just to say to God, you know what, I if you're not going to give us this, well, why should we live for you? Which was just an immaturity in those early days as Christians.
At this point too, I just want to, without getting emotional, say a thank you to my sister. So my older sister had two.
I'm sure she'll be watching this.
You'll be watching this, Ruth. And so first of all, the day that we got the news that there was nothing they could do, I'd gone to work, and I was working in the church. And she came to church and gave me a lovely plaque and about the rainbow and the storm and the rain that comes after. And then whenever her daughter was born, so Jessica is now 20, I'll get the age wrong as well.
She's 25 this year.
So when she was born, I had the privilege of looking after her while my sister went back to work, and the bond that we had was really lovely, and we still have that bond. And Ruth and Billy were so good because whenever Andrew came along as well, every Christmas morning we would go round, and the children weren't allowed to go into the room to see what gifts they got until Uncle David and Auntie Esther were there. And so we had such a big part of their childhood, things that we missed out on, and that was just such, so lovely. So I'm so grateful for the memories that we got to cherish all of that and be part of. So
so that was a massive storm in your relationship, that initially you struggled, but eventually you came around and supported each other. What kind of advice would you give to to couples who are struggling with specific things, particularly childlessness or very difficult challenges in their family? What would be the advice you would give to them?
Well, the first thing I would say is that, and this is probably, if you know us personally, or Joel could get you in touch with us, we will always be there to encourage and help people walk through this. What I would say to you is that in our human thinking, in the way that we think as human beings, we sometimes we think that it's like a punishment, or like it's like something that we've done wrong or whatever. But actually it's not, and it's definitely not, because God is a God of love, and God created Esther for me, and He created me for Esther.
Such a great thing to say.
And He knew that the plan was that we wouldn't have children. And much and all is, there is moments, I gotta be honest with you. I remember sitting at a conference when I was in the minister in training, and this guy that was speaking at the conference, I knew that he had walked the same journey as us, a bit older than us, but he'd walked the same journey of childlessness, and he got up to speak, and he started to speak about this, and I was sitting thinking, yeah, I understand what he means by that. Yeah, I felt that too. Yeah, like him, we got to a point where we accepted it, and we realized that God had a plan and that he knew best. And then he says, and then all of a sudden, all our friends started to have grandchildren. He says, and a second wave came along. And I was sitting there going, didn't even think of grandchildren. Didn't even think of grandchildren. And you know, there's things that, like,
we're not in that season.
Yeah, but even before that, thinking about having the privilege to walk your daughter down the aisle. I am a massive football fan, and I used to coach football and coach kids.
What team do you currently support?
Currently I support Spurs and I support Carlisle.
Right.
But what I was going to say is that my dream was always to coach my child how to play football. Not that he had to be brilliant at it, but just to spend time doing that. And that's all we ever wanted. And those dreams that we had lay broken in smithereens. And to be honest with you, for you may feel the same. You may be thinking, it's just, you know, we came together as a couple. We had plans for to have children. Our life was all mapped out, and now all of a sudden we realise that we're not going to be able to, or we're struggling to. And I want to encourage you that God has a plan for your life, and in a moment you will hear, I'm sure, the plan that God had, and the reason why we haven't been blessed with children. But I would say to you, we get your pain. And do you know, it's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be angry with God as well. God is big enough and able enough to cope with your anger. But I think it's so important that you understand and grasp that there is no benefit at all from pushing God away in a storm. You need to just cry out to him, tell him how you feel, be honest with him, but then allow him to bring healing to your heart, to your relationship, to your marriage, because God brought you together for a purpose.
There is no benefit in pushing God away in a storm.
No.
That's really insightful. Now, yes, you haven't had any biological children of your own, but you are proud parents of so many children. Do you want to tell us about that? And grandparents as well. Tell us about yours. Tell us about that.
Well, we've wonderful nephews and nieces.
Nephews and nieces, and we have a great niece as well.
Nice.
And we're so blessed. We are so blessed, and we love them all, and we're so proud of them all. But in 2011, our journey then took us to Cambodia. And as missionaries, and we feel that we couldn't have done that if we had children.
Right.
Like
okay.
God prepared the way for us to go there, and we served God for 8.5 years in Cambodia.
Wow.
And
so you just moved from the UK.
Just moved from Northern Ireland.
Cambodia.
We didn't know where it
Hadn't
was.
even been there.
Hadn't been. We just went, and God is so amazing because the family that He gave us when we went there, and one of the things that we were involved in was I set up a charity called Be Free Cambodia.
Be Free Cambodia.
And it's still going on, and this year it celebrates its 10th birthday.
Wow.
Where girls have been rescued from sexual exploitation, trafficking, abuse, prevention of that as well, are looked after and are going through a program. So with that, girls came through that program that would have been the age of, if we had daughters, would have been the age of those girls. And the opportunity to be part of their life and to love them and cherish them and to help them with their children. And the other family that God gave us there, our Elam, Cambodia family.
I see.
Young people coming through that we could mentor and nurture, and
so a ministry was born out of that.
Ministry was born out of it. And you know, we never would have said, you know, I'm going to be your mum or I'm going to be your dad. They just loved us for who we were, and the grandchildren that were born then, and you know, calling us, you know, Nana and Papa. It just gave us so much joy, and God really blessed us. And what you'd said earlier about, you know, wanting to walk a daughter down the aisle. Sikkim, who manages the program, when she got married and she had no family, so David had the honour of walking her down the aisle.
So that was an answer prayer in another way.
It just
God fulfills every hole that you feel in your heart and your life. God fills it perfectly. And when we realised that God knows best, and we handed our lives over completely, because we knew that there was a purpose for this. There was no way that God would stop us from having children, unless he had a real purpose for it. And out of that, because I was a baker, I had my bakery business or dessert making business, and I was busy working all hours, all absolutely round the clock, making desserts, and it made people happy. It really did. When they ate the desserts, they loved them. But it wasn't a reason to not have children. And I remember I went to Uganda with a football team. We had a great time in Uganda, and I remember standing out, looking out from a garden over a misty Kampala, and I remember God just saying to me, I was playing music. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. I was listening to Lara Martin, who's from Elam in Northampton, the Voice of Hope. And I was listening to this song, and I was just singing away and enjoying it, and I just really felt that the Holy Spirit spoke deep into my heart and said, this is what I want for you. I want you to give me the rest of your life completely. I don't want you to make cakes from 3 in the morning till 10 at night. I want you to give me your life completely. And I went home to Northern Ireland. Didn't tell Esther because I knew that Esther would tell me I was mad. But I took her to Uganda the following year, and we had 2 weeks there, and life wasn't easy for Esther because of the way her body's been left after her surgeries. But she got through that, and on the way home on the plane she said, do you want to read my journal? And my journals usually start in the plane and they finish on the plane. Esther's journal was the whole thing. And I sat and read her journal, and I sat in tears in the plane as we flew back to London, as I realised that God had now called Esther too. And at that point I said, we need to talk. And we realised that for us, what the purpose and the reason that we didn't have was that we were going to go into full-time ministry. And at that point I went to Cambodia as a football coach. Esther went as to help with the children's work and different things. But God had much bigger plans.
Wow.
You know.
So individually you all set up to do something that you're passionate about, but in all of that, God brought a ministry out of it and called you into full-time ministry. Wow.
It's been a roller coaster.
It has been indeed. It has been indeed. And I believe that is the story for many marriages, that there's so many storms. There's really nothing that is just simple. There's so many things. And I think learning from your story, it's a story of dependence on God. It's a story of being together and being one, supporting each other. Because you said there were moments where when you felt weak, she was stronger and she could encourage you, and vice versa. And I think that that's really important in relationships, that we are together in oneness and supporting each other through thick and thin.
That's right.
Very
Absolutely.
much so. Very much so.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this. I've just got one last question to ask you, okay? I know you've told us about your story of your individual lives when you were single before you got together. There may be some people watching this video today who are single but desiring marriage. What advice will you give to such people, and what would you say that they should be doing to enable them have a glorious marriage in the long run? So address our single friends who are watching.
Okay, so
or those in relationships as well.
Well, yes. So I think the most, from what I said way earlier on, learn from our mistakes for starters. I think it's so important that we understand that being single isn't a bad thing.
No.
There's some people that will remain single all their lives, and that's okay, because when you have a true relationship with God, and when you have a close relationship with God, you don't feel on your own as such. But I get also that having those companions and having that person in your life is really special. But God has a purpose for everything, and sometimes some people will go through life single, and it's just coming to a point where you, like us, realised in our situation that God knows best.
Yes.
Once you know that, you also know there's a purpose for it, and get excited by that, because God's purpose for things is always something that is exciting, because you're in it and God's in it, and God is in that with you, and it is exciting. But what I would say as well is that be patient. Be patient, because if God has someone prepared for you, created for you, the way that Esther was created for me, it took us a bit of time to find each other. And it may do you too, but eventually you'll find the right person. And when you find that right person, you know very, very quickly that it's the right person. And God will really open your eyes to that. But I think the final thing I'll say, and then I'll let Esther say what she wants to. The final thing I'll say is that it is so important. Because whenever we get into a relationship, if you're in a relationship and you're going out with each other, we do have desires. We have desires for to be intimate and to be all those different things. I would strongly advise you to draw close to God and allow God to dictate to you. And I say dictate, I don't mean like, harshly dictate to you, but let God, who has created all things, who knows the right thing in the right way, be the one that shows you in a loving way how to live as a couple before you get married. Esther and I, before we left Cambodia, so it would have been 2019.
Oh, this is lovely.
In July 2019, on the 23rd of July, on our 25th wedding anniversary, we renewed our vows. But this time we were Christians, and we renewed our vows with our full Cambodian family. About 4 weeks before we left Cambodia, we got the privilege and honour. We got dressed up in all the beautiful traditional Khmer. I thought Esther thought she'd never get me to do it, but she did, and it was such a special time together. Purity is so important.
Purity is important,
especially from a Christian perspective, because God is the most important person. As a married couple, there will always be three of you, and God is obviously the most important person in that equation. And it's so important that you wait and you allow God to lead you into the most beautiful experience of all.
Lovely. Yeah. Great. Esther, you've got something to add to that.
And I would say just, keep your eyes on God. Keep in His Word, read His Word, listen to His voice. Don't listen to other people's voices. It was quite hard whenever people, know that you're married and then would be insensitive and say, oh, when are you going to have a family? Or if you're single, oh, when are you going to, get married? And people think that, and in the church, people think, well, that's what you do. So it's surrounding yourself with people that support you, will encourage you, but keep your eyes on God. He has a plan for your life.
He has a plan.
He has the best plan. And yes, as David said, be patient and trust in Him. And whenever we were in Cambodia, we worked with a lot of single missionaries. And some of them wanted to get married, and we just said, trust in God. He knows what's best for you. He has the best adventure ahead of you, and
Absolutely.
it may be being single, it may be being married. His plan is the best, and just keep your eyes focused on Him, trust in Him. Because without God, what do we have? We have nothing. So trust in God.
And I'm
Trust in God.
And I'm so glad that I agreed to meet Billy that night.
And then you bought the drink.
And I bought the drink. And I don't publicly say this too often, but I did mean to buy the drink.
That's good.
And I wouldn't change Esther for the world.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And
that's so sweet.
she puts up with a lot.
On that note, on that final note, I just want you each to tell us. I know there's so many things why you love each other. Just give me one thing each that you love about each other. So David, what's one thing that you cherish so much about Esther? And likewise, Esther, what one thing you cherish so much about David? Ladies first.
Oh, good. Good.
Just one.
Just one.
This
will be hard for.
Oh, he is so kind. Is so kind and generous to me, and I just love that kindness and his generous heart, and his singing.
Do you mean his singing?
Yes. making up his little songs.
Right, okay. You've probably got a nice voice in private, yeah?
Yeah. Bringing laughter, because laughter, we need laughter. And
laughter is medicine.
Laughter is medicine, and we need that in a marriage.
Oh,
yes.
That's good. Laughter is medicine, and you need that in a marriage. Marry someone who make you laugh.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, very much so. For me, it's something that struck me when we were talking here and everything that we were saying. I love the fact that the one thing that Esther loves to do the most in the whole wide world, and it sounds crazy, but it's true.
Yeah.
She's really worried. She's really worried. Is she loves to crochet blankets
Yes.
for newborn babies.
Yes, and we had a lovely
Aw.
present from Esther for our
Aw.
newborn baby,
Aw.
which she's actually using today,
Oh,
and you'll
good.
see her in a moment.
So why I say
Aw.
that is that shows the love she has for others, but also it reflects the love she has for God,
Yes.
because she's taken her deepest brokenness, which is her not being able to have children, and she's actually, the one thing she does is every time she hears a baby's born, she has to crochet a blanket for them and
lovely.
give it as a gift to the family so that the baby will cherish it.
Yeah.
And that's out of a heart that has deep scars
Yeah.
of not being a mother herself.
Now I can even understand how much sentimental that crochet is going to be for us.
So that
But
encapsulates
we
the-
probably wouldn't want any more because we are not planning to have any
so,
more.
so that's hot off the press.
Watch the space.
But the heart that she does with that encapsulates
Indeed.
totally
Indeed.
who Esther is, and I have the privilege to call her my wife.
That's oh, that's great. What a very lovely way to end this interview. And I just want to thank you so much, David and Esther, for being the first couple on my YouTube channel and sharing such a very impactful personal story with all of us. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you, Joel.
And I hope that you've all been blessed by listening to the story of David and Esther. And I believe that you've learned a thing or two. And there's so many lessons for married couple, for singles, and for even those in relationships. And if you've enjoyed watching this video and you've learned a thing or two, I would encourage you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Please consider sharing this content as well with your family and friends, and let everyone hear this wonderful story from these wonderful couples. Until I come your way again with another video, thank you for watching, and God bless us all. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.